We talk to our first winner of the year as the road to French Lick concludes its South American run. Hello and welcome once again to the Road to French Lick, a show chronicling the Korn Ferry Tour. I'm Ryan Ballingy. Thanks for being here with us for this week's episode. In this episode, we are joined by our first winner of the 2025 Korn Ferry Tour season, the Astara Golf Championship winner in Colombia. That's Kyle Westmoreland. He joined myself and Brendan Sweeney, and we'll show you part one of a two-part conversation between us talking about his win and his celebration after the fact. We'll also go over the most recent Korn Ferry Tour event, the Visa Argentina Open, won by Justin Suh, and we'll prepare you for the final event of this swing through Latin America, including Central and South America, with the Astara Chile Classic played this week in Santiago, Chile. Let's first go over the results of the 118th Visa Argentina Open played this year at the Jockey Club in Buenos Aires, Argentina, one of the best courses, if not the best course in Argentina, and a long expected victory happened, albeit maybe not in the way that Justin Suh expected. Justin Suh had been a graduate of the Korn Ferry Tour and made his way to the PGA Tour, and unfortunately lost his full status after last season on the PGA Tour, forcing him to go between two tours, between the PGA Tour and the Korn Ferry Tour, and he found himself in this Argentina Open field at the Jockey Club. It was the third round that was the turning point for Suh. He shot 60 in the third round to take command of the tournament. He shot 65 in the final round at the Jockey Club to finish on 23 under 257, giving himself a 5-shot win over Ian Holt, Cole Sherwood, and S.H. Kim, who has put together quite a season so far with a pair of second-place finishes. Ryan Blom, former PGA Tour player himself, also finished inside the top 5 in solo 5th place on 17 under total, moving him up from 75th place in the Korn Ferry Tour point standings to 28th. For Suh's part, he moved up from 37th place to 2nd place in the Korn Ferry Tour point standings. We now take a look at the top 5 in the Korn Ferry Tour point standings through 5 events on the season. We have 4 winners in that top 5, meaning that we have one player who hasn't won yet this year in that top 5 in the standings. Hank Lebioda remains number 1 on the points list at 694 points. He's played all 5 events this season. Justin Suh, last week's winner at the Argentina Open, is now in 2nd place at 593 points. He has played all 5 events this year. Josh Teeter, the winner in Panama, has 591 points. S.H. Kim on the back of 2 second-place finishes, one in the playoff, one in the 3-way tie in Argentina. He is 4th on the list at 549 points. And rounding out the top 5 is your winner in Colombia, Kyle Westmoreland, who has 502 points. We're now through 5 events on the 2025 Korn Ferry Tour schedule. There are 26 events in total and 4 Korn Ferry Tour Finals events, meaning there are 22 regular season events on the schedule. That leaves us a total of 17 regular season events on the Korn Ferry Tour schedule to get in that Korn Ferry Tour points list number to qualify for the first of those 4 finals events. There's not as much time left in the season as maybe fans might think, and for players who earned guaranteed starts through Q School, they're quickly coming on that 8 tournament number, which is the minimum guaranteed to players who get through that status number at Q School, meaning after this week's Astara Chile Classic played at Prince of Wales Country Club in Chile, there are just 2 events remaining with guaranteed starts for those players. And then they will be thrown into the points reshuffle, which will dramatically change players' access to Korn Ferry Tour events for the remainder of the season. So for those players who didn't start the year with great status or access, if they've played well in these first 5-6 events on the schedule, that will set them up for access through the remainder of the year, predominantly played in the United States, giving them the best chance possible of getting into the Korn Ferry Tour Finals and then being one of the top 20 players in the Korn Ferry Tour point standings at the end of the season, earning a 2026 PGA Tour card. In the break between the 4 events played in Central and South America on the Korn Ferry Tour schedule, we had a chance to catch up with Kyle Westmoreland, who is back at home celebrating his victory in the Astara Golf Championship in Colombia. We spoke with him about the victory, about what it means to him, and how he thinks about the rest of the season now that he's won on the Korn Ferry Tour. Please enjoy part 1 of this extended exclusive conversation with Kyle Westmoreland.
Hey, you're welcome, Kyle Westmoreland. Congratulations on your first win on the Korn Ferry Tour, man. How you feeling? How you doing? Tell us a little bit about what happened.
Yeah, feeling good. It's nice to get it done. I think admittedly, there was a few times last year where I, had the lead or was close to and had the opportunity to get it done and didn't. So I think I, in that sense, maybe appreciate this one even more because of that. And so it's been awesome for me. It's been awesome for our family. Great to come home. Great to, give the wife a kiss and our little baby boy and have a couple of weeks off, but feeling good. At the beginning of the year in the Bahamas, I didn't have my best stuff. So I think we surprised ourselves a little bit. And that's always a great thing in golf.
Well, going back to that real quick, I mean, you finished 38th last year, I think it was, on the Korn Ferry list. And then you start off in the Bahamas at, you finished 74th or something like that, then missed 2 cuts, and all of a sudden you come storming back in Bogota. You shoot a 61 on day 3, set a course record at 10 under. What was that? What did you do? What do they have in Bogota that we don't have up here? I guess I should take that one.
Dude, there's one thing that I did which helped me for the week. I hit the ball pretty good in Panama. Panama was having that little time off between the Bahamas and Panama was nice. Went back, worked on it, got to Panama, hit it pretty good. Didn't putt it very good in Panama, so that can kind of be like a limiting factor, in the game of golf if you're not putting it very good. But actually switched putters for Bogota. So week 1 with a new putter, and
what was it?
It was working. It's the same setup. I arm lock it. It's the same grip, shaft, weight. But it went from an Odyssey, like a 7 to a Spider. Okay. TaylorMade Spider, and it was good. It was good. I admittedly made nothing on Sunday up until about the 14th hole, and then it got hot, and so it was nice. It was nice. It was a nice change, and it was good to see some progression from Panama into Bogota. And I'm fortunate, have a great team. Caddy, the guy that caddies for me down there is not my full-time guy, but he does like my stats and course prep. So we're able, we have a good game plan, solid game plan for that course in particular. And I think we executed it pretty well.
It's a unique event in Colombia with playing at elevation and 2 different courses, and one that you can go super low with Cristobal last year and Aldrich last year as well. But then you have another challenge for, 3 rounds of it. How unique is that as a multi-course event? Because of all of those other factors that make it unique, not just that it's 2 courses.
Yeah, I think going into that week, 3rd time playing down there, going into that week, that it's completely useless to look at a leaderboard until the 3rd round, right? Like you have no relativity of like where you sit, just because there's a vast scoring average difference between those 2 courses, right? You have the short course, which almost every par 4 is drivable. It played a little tougher this year than it did last year. Last year was really soft, and this year it was, slightly better, but still very gettable. So, you're really like, it's a great tournament to practice, like just keeping your head down and playing golf. And so I think we did that pretty well. Didn't really, look up until, coming down the stretch, and, we had talked about it beforehand, like our game plan, how we're going to go about it. And that course suits me pretty well, playing in Colorado Springs, like you talked about altitude. Colorado Springs was 7,300 feet. So about as close as it can get to a Bogota altitude. I'm comfortable teeing up the driver high, hitting it high and spinning it. And that's how you make it go farther at altitude. And so, I'm comfortable doing that. It allows me to push it up there on some holes, especially on that closing stretch. So, the comfort knowing that you have in a little bit of, I wouldn't say an extra gear, but you have something in the tank for, the last 5 holes is pretty nice, right? It's a good, you feel like you have like a card in your pocket, right? Or a card up your sleeve or whatever. So it was great for me. Great time. I think there's a lot to learn from that Bogota. They do such a good job supporting it down there. There's legitimately thousands of fans around the 18th hole, which doesn't really happen on the Korn Ferry Tour in the States, so it's just an awesome time, and thankful to get it done there.
We watched your closing ceremony there, and you got a good little lesson in Espanol. Es muy bueno on the speech you gave there. That was a home run, man.
Yeah, más o menos, but it was awesome. So my full-time caddy is from Mexico, originally lives in Lexington, Kentucky now, but we try to split 70-30 English Spanish when we're out there. So cool. I call him full-time caddy, part-time Spanish teacher. So we've been talking about it, and there's a guy, Greg, that runs a lot of the media for the Latin events, and then he does the South American swing as well. So he's been telling me for years that if I won, I needed to do the ceremony in Spanish, and he was there and helped me out with it. So I appreciate his help. You
rocked it. It was awesome. It sounded fun. How was the ride home? What was the celebration like?
Yeah. Oh man, you know what? I got on it was cool. I was at the club, finished around 2:30. We didn't get out of there till 6. That course, and their title sponsors, they do a great job of, like they run you through you do like the ceremony, you do like an autograph line, you do a picture line, you do another autograph line, you do another picture line. It's pretty cool. And everyone, coming up and saying, congratulations is awesome. Caddy and I ate some dinner, and then I went down to the clubhouse and ate with a few of the other guys. And we just, it was very low key. I was flying out. I red-eyed home. I was on daddy daycare duty. So I red-eyed home, and I was watching our little guy for a couple days. So it was good. It was, it was awesome to have dinner with the guys, to celebrate with the staff and all the tournament, the host organization and all the volunteers. It was great to do it with them, and then have some dinner with some friends and the caddy, and then, get home to the family. It's awesome.
How helpful has it been to have a couple-week break before having to come back down, make that long trek again, and kind of decompress after a win instead of having to just keep on grinding right after having a trophy in your hands?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people say you want to keep playing, but I felt, I was very motivated to get home, go see the family. I think it's great. I think the scheduling is great this year, having the weeks on the front end and the back end of this trip. Because, if you just send guys straight forward, a lot of guys would not go this far south, right? Argentina and Chile are a long way away. But to have 2 weeks back to back with a couple weeks on the front end, and I think 3 weeks on the back end, it's pretty nice. They did a good job scheduling it. So, gives us time to spend some time with the family, prepare to be gone from them for a couple weeks, and then come back. So we're excited.
We'll have part 2 of our conversation with Kyle Westmoreland in the next episode of The Road to French Lick, where we'll talk further about his win, the season, and the remaining demands on the year to capitalize on that victory in Colombia. Brendan Sweeney joins me, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Argentina Open, which was played this year at the Jockey Club, and Alistair McKenzie design in Buenos Aires. Probably the best course, if not outright easily the best course in Argentina. Justin Suh winds up winning. Has really the dominant performance so far of the year on the Korn Ferry Tour. Wins by 5 shots, 23 under, 257, including a third round 60, which really set him above and away from everybody else. 65 in the final round, just to put a finer point on it, and win by 5 over Ian Holt, S.H. Kim, who another second place for him, and then Cole Sherwood. So a little about Justin Suh, who had a PGA Tour card, had gotten out of the Korn Ferry Tour, just couldn't maintain his status. Now seems like he's trying to position himself to get right back there.
Yeah, he was a medalist in the 2022 Korn Ferry Championships, presented by United Leasing and Finance. Thank you very much. But the cool way how he finished that, he birdied the last three out of the last 4 holes.
Yeah.
So good for him. And he's going to Port Rush. Even better.
Yeah. This is an interesting event in that it is one of the events of the Open qualifying series from the RNA, and they offered a spot to the top player, not otherwise exempt, which in this case just happens to be the winner, into the Open at Portrush. So that's great news for Justin Suh. So he's got himself a place in a major championship. And yeah, he probably wasn't going to get that otherwise playing on the PGA Tour.
No, not at all.
So that kind of works out pretty sweet. We mentioned S.H. Kim. Also want to mention Ryan Blum, who had PGA Tour status, who's won on the PGA Tour and lost it. But you look at the leaderboards early on in the season. I'll throw Tyler Duncan in there, T7. He's playing this week in Puerto Rico as the Oppo event to the Arnold Palmer Invitational. But a number of players who have done very well so far, Kyle Westmoreland, guys who have had PGA Tour status and are hungry to get it back.
You got that right. Well, you got to look at Joe Weiler. I mean, he finished in sixth. He shot up from 86 to 34 on the points list, which was huge. Purdue guy, French Lick guy, gotta love him on that side. Tyler Duncan, you mentioned. Rob Oppenheim, he had a good run. He had a top 10. And yeah, you said Cole Sherwood as well. But I think the guy that you got to look out for that we haven't really spoke about, who's made 5 consecutive cuts, is Ian Holt, who came out of nowhere pretty much. We went from 61st to 16th on the points list. So he's my dark horse that's sort of coming out of nowhere. We don't really know too much about him. But it's our job to find out who he is, man.
Basically a complete unknown to almost all of us. And all of a sudden, you go have 5 made cuts, couple good finishes, get into the top 2. You've racked up some points. And in short order, you've got yourself in a position that you need, we've talked about this, about 1,000 points we think to get a card this year at the end of the Korn Ferry Tour Championship presented by United Leasing and Finance.
Thank you very much.
He's well on his way. I mean, if you keep doing this, you keep just chipping away at it, you're taking a different tack than guys who win a tournament and don't do a whole lot else. He's going the opposite way.
Well, it's a grinder, man. We saw it last year at French Lick, how it came down to a putt. Someone making par to get knocked out. So, yeah, it's the Korn Ferry Tour. Everything counts, and we've seen it in the past and whatnot. But, there's some surprises out there, too, that guys who are not playing well. I mean, we're almost a quarter of the way through the season, and you look at guys like Sam Bennett, Nick Watney, Spencer Levine, Cody Blick, Ryan Armour, Cole Hammer. I mean, all these guys have started. Doc Redman, Paul Bajan, who medaled last year at Victoria National. And they've all played, Watney and Armour played 4 tournaments and Redmond's 3, but the rest of the guys has started every tournament and haven't really produced yet. So 1 week could change all that, but they're trending the wrong way. So
yeah, and you run out of time pretty quickly around here because, again, after this week, the Astara Chile Classic, now we're basically a quarter way through the schedule. I mean, not quite, but a quarter of the way through the regular season, let's put it that way. And you don't have a lot of time to make moves. And oh, by the way, you've got to wait a month knowing that you didn't play well so far to go make up that time once we start getting into the United States portion of the schedule.
Yeah, right. After Chile, it's 3 weeks off, 4 weeks off. Then they take off to the States and they wind up in Savannah, Georgia. So clock's ticking, and maybe these guys need a month to reset their clocks, go see their teacher, just relax at home. I mean, it's been a grind so far with the Bahamas and South America and whatnot. So see what happens.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said for the early season ability to travel, and I think that does speak to the PGA Tour guys pretty well. The guys who have been on a lot of plane rides 25 weeks in a row and have done this a number of times, they tend to kind of shine in these earlier events because they put in the miles before. Now once you get into Savannah, Georgia, and Lakewood Ranch, Florida, now it gets a little bit shorter. Those trips get a little bit easier. Maybe the game starts to show up a little bit better.
Speaking of game getting a little bit better, let's talk about a couple of our graduates that did fabulous so far. Brian Campbell, University of Illinois grad. He was on the tour before. He wins it in Mexico with Aldridge Peak Guider. Win, place, and show with Celinda coming in. So top 3 guys graduated from the Korn Ferry last year in Mexico. And it's really exciting to see how they handled the pressure. My gosh, what a playoff that was. Yeah,
the break of a lifetime for Brian Campbell to somehow get that ball and what looked like bamboo and other stuff, and it pops out, he's in play. If you've ever played competitive golf, you knew the second that ball came back in that Aldridge Pottgater was in some deep trouble because it's just the law of averages, just kind of Murphy's Law, the way that worked out. felt horrible for Potgieter, who played an excellent tournament, played very well to his ability, showcased what he can do, and also where he still struggles. But then to have Celinda have a great weekend, give himself a look at least at getting in that playoff. It seems like the Mexico Open the last couple of years between Jake Knapp winning and then having Win Play Show this time around is kind of the place where the Korn Ferry graduates can start to kind of get their footing a little bit.
Yeah, what a great run. I'm going to pop down. This is Bay Hill week, API this week in Orlando. I'm going to head down to the tournament and see if I can catch up with a couple of those guys. If we do, we'll get an interview with them. Besides that, everything's going well. We have a new opening for the show.
Yeah.
Thanks to Troy at French Lick for putting together a nice little opening for us. And then we're going to kick off a little relationship with Swag Golf. We'll talk to them in the next couple of weeks and get them on the show and see what we can do there. But Swag has got some really cool stuff, trendy stuff. Some fellas out in the Korn Ferry Tour right now are carrying their stuff around. And we're looking forward to a good relationship with those guys.
Yeah, as the show continues to grow and establish itself a little bit more, we can do some more fun things, talking to winners like Kyle Westmoreland, hang out with folks at tournaments, and also getting to spend some time with the gang at Swag Golf, who are tremendous supporters of the Korn Ferry Tour. So, we've got this week in Chile, then we got a little bit of time off, and then all of a sudden, I think the gas starts to get hit. That pedal starts to get hit a little bit harder because it's go time, which get in the United States. There's time when those exemptions or the 8 tournament exemption that basically you get by having status out of Q school starts to run out. The pressure starts to ramp up very quickly, and we kind of get to sit back and enjoy what happens through the end of the season, but we're getting into the meat of the season now.
Well, and then, with the new rules in place, we're going from 30 to 20 cards as well, so.
Yeah, and I don't think the players are cognizant of that on both tours, by the way. The Korn Ferry Tour, absolutely, they know 30 to 20 is a big deal, but also on the PGA Tour, because they're going from 125 to 100, so you can make that calculation depending on where you are in the FedEx Cup standings, where you may want to consider playing a Korn Ferry Tour event here and there just to think about a little safety.
Until next time, my man.
Thanks so much, Brendan. Appreciate it.
See ya.
As we do in most episodes of The Road to French Lick, we now take a look at a pair of holes on the Pete Dye course at French Lick Resort in French Lick, Indiana, home to the Korn Ferry Tour Championship, presented by United Leasing and Finance. This week, we look at the par 4 fifth hole and the par 4 sixth hole. Here's Will Haskett with more.
The fifth hole is the shortest par 4 on the course, and your tee shot here is of the utmost importance. An ideal struck tee shot ends up in the left center of the fairway. That misses all the fairway bunkers down the right-hand side, but also aligns you perfectly for an approach shot to a green that sits at a 45-degree angle from the fairway. It's a very small green, and the bailout is actually a little bit long and left of the putting surface, but remember, this approach shot plays significantly uphill. The sixth hole is a great par 4, but do not miss left. Over 20 bunkers line the left rough, and a premium is placed on the accurate tee shot near the fairway bunkers on the right-hand side. That leaves a mid-iron approach shot of about 160 to 175 yards to the green. This hole will also be one of the most photographed, while the vistas from the green are absolutely incredible.
That'll do it for us this week on the show. Thank you so much for watching. We appreciate it. The Korn Ferry Tour this week is in Chile for the Astara Chile Classic, which will end the tour's run through Latin America and bring the Korn Ferry Tour back to the United States for most of the remainder of the season. We'll have a multi-week break in between, and we'll catch up with you as the tour resumes back in the United States. For everyone at the French Lick Resort and at Golf News Net, I'm Ryan Ballingy. For Brendan Sweeney, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on The Road to French Lick.